I still remember the day I bought my first apartment in Chicago. 7 years of saving every penny while working in tech finally paid off. The two-bedroom place was my pride and joy. My relationship with my dad, Howard, had always been decent, even though he clearly favored my sister, Lisa. Then came the shock that shattered everything. I walked into his house to hear him say those unbelievable words, "I sold the apartment to your sister. She needs it more than you." Before I continue this wild story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments section below. Hit that subscribe button and like this video to support the channel. At 32 years old, I had accomplished what many people my age only dreamed of. After working tirelessly at a technology firm in Chicago for 7 years, putting in extra evening hours and sacrificing countless weekends, I had finally saved enough money for a down payment on my own apartment. Finding the perfect place took months of searching, but when I walked into that two-bedroom apartment in a great neighborhood, just 15 minutes from my office, I knew it was the one. The apartment had hardwood floors throughout large windows that let in plenty of natural light, a spacious kitchen with granite countertops, and even a small balcony overlooking a quiet courtyard. It was not just a place to live, it was a symbol of everything I had worked for. The day I signed the final papers and received the keys was one of the proudest moments of my life. I remember standing alone in the empty living room, keys in hand, hardly believing that this place was actually mine. No more landlords, no more restrictions on painting walls or hanging pictures. This was my space, bought with my own hard-earned money. Over the next few weeks, I poured my heart into making the apartment truly mine. I painted the walls a warm beige in the living room and a calming blue in the bedroom. My college buddy Devin helped me install new light fixtures, and my coworker Jake assisted with putting together furniture on weekends. It was exhausting, but deeply satisfying. My family situation was relatively straightforward. My father, Howard, was 65, a widower who ran a small real estate business focusing on residential properties. My younger sister, Lisa, was 28, always the apple of our father's eye. She had never been great with finances, jumping from job to job and often asking Dad for help with rent or bills. My mother had passed away during my sophomore year of college, and Dad had never remarried, focusing instead on his business and looking after Lisa. Despite the clear favoritism, I had always maintained a decent relationship with my father. He had helped me through some tough times early in my career, lending me money when I was between jobs and offering advice when I needed it. I genuinely believed that beneath it all, he wanted the best for both his children, even if he showed it differently. When I finally moved into my apartment, I invited my father and sister over for a small housewarming party, along with a few close friends. Lisa spent most of the evening complimenting the apartment, excessively asking pointed questions about the price and inquiring about the terms of my mortgage. At the time, I thought she was just showing interest in my achievement. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Dad pulled me aside. "Son, you have done well for yourself. I am proud of you," he said, patting me on the back. Then he added, "I was thinking maybe I should have a spare key to this place. You know, just in case of emergencies." Something in his tone made me hesitate, but I brushed it off as parental concern. I agreed to have a copy made for him the following week. Around the same time, Lisa began having problems with her landlord. According to her, he was raising the rent unfairly and had threatened to evict her if she could not pay. Dad suggested that I let Lisa stay with me temporarily while she sorted things out. I politely declined, reminding him that I had just moved in myself and needed time to settle. Also, I knew from past experience that Lisa was not the most considerate houseguest. She tended to leave messes behind and had little respect for personal boundaries or belongings. Dad seemed disappointed, but did not push the issue further. Looking back, I realized these were the first warning signs of what was to come. The casual inquiries about my mortgage, the request for a spare key, the suggestion that Lisa move in, all pieces of a puzzle I was too trusting to see forming. 2 weeks after my housewarming party, I had to travel to San Francisco for a work conference. The trip was scheduled to last 14 days, and I was looking forward to the opportunity to network and learn new skills. Before leaving, I made sure everything in the apartment was secure, set up automatic lights on timers, and asked my neighbor Thomas to keep an eye on the place. 3 days into my trip, I received a text message from Thomas that made my stomach drop. "Hey Jimmy, just wanted to let you know there are people viewing your apartment right now. A woman and a real estate agent. Is that normal?" I immediately called Thomas for more details. He explained that he had seen a woman who looked like my sister, along with an older man carrying a briefcase, showing another couple around my apartment. They had spent about 30 minutes inside before leaving. I called my father right away, heart pounding. "Dad, do you know anything about someone showing my apartment to potential buyers?" "No idea what you are talking about, son," he replied, his voice unnaturally casual. "Maybe your neighbor confused the apartments. You know how those buildings all look the same." Something did not add up, but I was thousands of miles away and had meetings scheduled for the entire day. I asked Thomas to text me if he saw anything else unusual and tried to focus on my work. When I returned home a week and a half later, everything in my apartment looked normal at first glance. But as I unpacked and settled back in, I noticed small things out of place. A drawer in my study that I always kept closed was slightly ajar. Some papers in my filing cabinet seemed to have been rearranged. The spare keys I kept in a kitchen drawer were in a slightly different position than I remembered. I decided to speak with the building manager, a helpful woman named Sophia. What she told me sent chills down my spine. "Yes, your father was here last week," she confirmed. "He was asking about the procedure for transferring ownership of an apartment in this building. He mentioned something about helping his daughter move in." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Without telling Sophia about my suspicions, I thanked her for the information and returned to my apartment, mind racing. That evening, I drove to my father's house determined to get answers. When I arrived, Dad seemed surprised to see me, but invited me in casually. We sat in his living room, the same room where he had dispensed advice and wisdom throughout my childhood. "Dad, I need to ask you something." Directly, I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "Have you been showing my apartment to people? And did you ask the building manager about transferring ownership?" His expression shifted subtly, a flash of something that looked like guilt crossing his face before he composed himself. "Jimmy, I was just helping Lisa look for a place. She really needs a stable home right now." "In my apartment?" I asked incredulously. "The one I just bought," Dad sighed and leaned forward. "Listen, son, you are single, you have a good job, and you do not really need a 2-bedroom place. Lisa has a child. She needs the space more than you do." I could not believe what I was hearing. "So you were planning to sell my apartment without even asking me?" "I was not selling it," he corrected, as if that made it better. "I was helping facilitate a family transfer. I may have signed a few preliminary papers on your behalf, but nothing major." The revelation that he had been signing documents in my name sent me reeling. When I pressed him further, he admitted that he had made copies of my keys during the housewarming party and had been letting Lisa into my apartment multiple times while I was away. The next day, I received a call from my bank regarding an unusual deposit into my account. When I checked, I found a payment of $20,000 from Lisa with the memo "apartment deposit." My blood ran cold. That evening, I drove back to my father's house, this time knowing I would likely find Lisa there too. Sure enough, when I arrived, Lisa's car was in the driveway, and I could see boxes stacked in the back seat. Inside, Lisa was sitting at the dining table with her 4-year-old son, Michael, showing him pictures of what I recognized as my apartment. "And this will be your new room," she was saying enthusiastically. When they noticed me standing in the doorway, there was an awkward silence before Dad cleared his throat. "Jimmy, we need to talk." "Yes, we absolutely do." I agreed, my voice tight with anger. "What exactly is going on here?" Dad stood up straighter, adopting the authoritative tone he used when making business deals. "I have sold your apartment to Lisa at below market value. The papers are being processed. She has already paid the deposit." You did what I could barely get the words out. "Family helps family," he stated firmly. "Lisa and Michael need a stable home. You can easily find another place or stay here until you do." Lisa jumped in her voice, dripping with fake sympathy. "I have already paid $20,000, Jimmy. The apartment is mine now. I am sorry if Dad did not communicate clearly with you, but this is what is best for Michael." "Show me these papers," I demanded, extending my hand. Reluctantly, Dad went to his office and returned with a folder. Inside were various documents, including a sale agreement with what appeared to be my signature at the bottom. Except, it was not my signature. It was close, but definitely forged. "This is not my signature," I said, pointing to the paper. "This is fraud." "I signed it for you, Dad," admitted casually. "I am your father. I was doing what is best for the family." Lisa interjected, her voice rising. "You are being selfish, Jimmy. You do not even need that apartment. What about your nephew? Do you not care that he needs a stable home? A yard to play in? My apartment does not even have a yard." I pointed out, but Lisa was already in full attack mode. "You have always been selfish, always thinking about yourself first. That is why Mom always worried about you." That was a low blow, bringing our deceased mother into this. I felt a surge of rage, but managed to control myself. Without another word, I grabbed the folder with the forged documents and left, ignoring their calls to come back and discuss this rationally. The next morning, my phone rang while I was still trying to process the betrayal. The caller introduced himself as Aaron Turner from Pioneer Financial, the company that managed my mortgage. "Mr. Williams, we have received some unusual paperwork regarding the transfer of ownership for your property," Aaron explained. "As part of our fraud prevention protocols, we wanted to verify this directly with you before proceeding." I explained that I had not authorized any transfer and was grateful for their diligence. "I thought that might be the case," Aaron replied. "Just so you know, you are still the legal owner of the property. No one has the right to sell it without your proper authorization and notarized signature. I would suggest consulting with a real estate attorney as soon as possible." That afternoon, I met with Sarah Goldstein, an attorney specializing in real estate law. After reviewing the forged documents and hearing my story, she confirmed what Aaron had told me. "These documents have no legal standing," she assured me. "The signature is clearly forged, and even if it was not a property transfer, requires notarization and proper filing with the county recorder's office. None of that has happened." Sarah explained that what my father and sister had attempted constituted fraud and could potentially result in criminal charges. She advised gathering all evidence and sending a formal cease and desist letter before considering more serious legal action. "How likely is it that they could successfully steal my apartment?" I asked. "Without your legitimate signature and proper legal procedures, it is virtually impossible," she replied. "But that does not mean they will not try to create problems for you. I would recommend taking steps to secure your property and documentation immediately." Following Sarah's advice, I began investigating further and discovered some troubling information about my sister's finances. Lisa had maxed out 3 credit cards, was 3 months behind on her car payments for a new SUV she could not afford, and had a history of taking advantage of family members. My cousin Anthony later told me she had borrowed his vacation cabin for a weekend and left it with significant damage she never paid for. I also learned that my father, despite his real estate experience, had been struggling financially due to some poor investment decisions. He had been trying to help Lisa with her mounting debts, which explained their desperation to get their hands on my apartment. Over the next week, I took several steps to protect myself. I filed a report with the local police department about the forged documents, creating an official record of the incident. I met with the building manager again to explain the situation and ensure that no one would be allowed access to my apartment without my explicit permission. I provided her with photos of both my father and Lisa, instructing security not to let them into the building. I hired a locksmith to change all the locks and installed a security camera system that would alert my phone if anyone entered the apartment. Through mutual friends, I learned that Lisa had been bragging to her social circle about her amazing new apartment and how she would be moving in by the end of the month. She had even been discussing renovation plans, talking about tearing down walls and remodeling the kitchen that I had just updated. With all my evidence gathered and security measures in place, I was ready for the final confrontation. Following my attorney's guidance, we prepared a formal legal letter outlining the fraud attempt and the potential consequences. Rather than simply mailing it, I wanted to deliver the message personally. I texted my father and Lisa saying I had reconsidered their offer and wanted to meet at my attorney's office to finalize the paperwork. They agreed eagerly, not suspecting what was coming. On the day of the meeting, they arrived at Sarah's office with confident smiles. Lisa even brought a small box of personal items, clearly expecting to walk away with keys to my apartment. They were not smiling when Sarah introduced herself as my real estate attorney and laid out all the evidence we had gathered. "What we have here," Sarah explained calmly, "is a clear case of attempted fraud forgery and potential grand theft. The documents you prepared and signed have no legal validity whatsoever." I watched their faces as she methodically went through each piece of evidence: the forged signature, verified as false by a handwriting expert, the statements from the building manager and neighbors, the verification from the mortgage company that no transfer had been processed or would be recognized. Under state law, Sarah continued, forgery of this nature can result in felony charges with potential penalties, including fines up to $100,000 and imprisonment for up to 5 years. The color drained from my father's face. Lisa started to protest, but Sarah silenced her with a raised hand. Additionally, she added, there could be civil penalties and damages that could easily exceed the value of the apartment itself. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in my father's eyes. Lisa looked from him to me, her confidence crumbling. "This is ridiculous," she stammered. "We are family. You cannot seriously be threatening to send your own father and sister to jail." I leaned forward, meeting her gaze directly. "You tried to steal my home, Lisa, the home I worked 7 years to afford. And Dad, you forged my signature and betrayed my trust completely. What did you think would happen?" My father slumped in his chair, suddenly looking every bit his 65 years. "I never thought it would come to this," he said quietly. "I was just trying to help your sister." "By committing fraud?" I asked. "By stealing from your son?" There was a heavy silence before Sarah spoke again. "Mr. Williams has authorized me to offer you 2 options. She slid a folder across the table. "Option 1. You both sign these papers, acknowledging the fraud attempt, agreeing to return the deposit money, and committing to never attempt anything like this again. No charges will be filed." "And option 2, my father asked hoarsely. "We proceed with both criminal charges and a civil lawsuit," I replied. "The choice is yours." My father reached for the papers immediately, but Lisa jumped up, knocking her chair backward. "This is insane," she shouted. "You would choose an apartment over your own family, over your nephew having a stable home." "This is not about the apartment, Lisa," I said evenly. "This is about trust and respect. You both showed me neither." "Your sister has struggled," my father began, but I cut him off. "And I worked hard. For years. I earned that apartment, and neither of you had any right to try and take it from me. Sign the papers or we go to court. Those are the only options now." After a moment of tense silence, my father signed the acknowledgement. Lisa refused at first, continuing to argue and blame me. But when it became clear that I would not back down, she finally scrawled her signature on the document, tears of anger streaming down her face. "You have ruined this family," she spat as she grabbed her box and stormed out. My father lingered for a moment. "I am sorry, son," he said quietly. "I truly thought I was doing what was best for everyone." "No, Dad," I replied. "You did what was easiest for you and best for Lisa. You never once considered what was right for me." In the aftermath of that confrontation, our family fractured in ways I never imagined possible. As agreed, I returned Lisa's $20,000 deposit, though she never acknowledged receiving it. She refused to speak to me and spread a distorted version of events to our extended family, painting me as the villain who had left her and her son homeless out of pure selfishness. Some relatives took her side without questioning her story. Others, who had experienced Lisa's manipulation firsthand, understood my position. My Aunt Patricia called me to express her support, saying she had lent Lisa money multiple times that was never repaid. My father, to his credit, did reach out after 3 weeks. His initial text was simple: "I made a terrible mistake. I am sorry." I did not respond immediately, needing time to process my feelings. The emotional toll was significant. I found myself questioning every relationship in my life, wondering who else might betray me if given the opportunity. Sleep became difficult, and I frequently woke in the night, imagining someone trying to break into my apartment. The security cameras I had installed sent alerts to my phone whenever they detected motion, and I found myself checking them obsessively. Eventually, I sought help through a support group for people dealing with family estrangement and betrayal. Hearing others' stories made me realize I was not alone in experiencing family members who crossed boundaries and violated trust. The group facilitator, a therapist named David, helped me understand that establishing clear boundaries was not selfish but necessary for healthy relationships. I focused on rebuilding my life, throwing myself into work projects, and strengthening connections with friends who had stood by me. My neighbor Thomas became a close friend, often joining me for dinner or game nights. My colleague Jake introduced me to his hiking group, and those weekend excursions into nature became vital for my mental health. 6 months after the confrontation, I finally agreed to meet my father for coffee. We sat at a quiet corner table, the awkwardness between us palpable. "I know saying sorry is not enough." He began, his hands wrapped tightly around his mug. "What I did was unforgivable." "Why did you do it, Dad?" I asked the question that had haunted me for months. "Did you really think I would just accept it?" He sighed deeply. "Lisa was in serious financial trouble, worse than you know. There were threats from some loan sharks. I panicked. Your apartment seemed like a quick solution." He paused. "I convinced myself you would understand eventually, that you would forgive us because we are family." "Family does not steal from each other," I said quietly. "Family respects boundaries." "I know that now," he replied. "I have been seeing a counselor, trying to understand why I always put Lisa's needs above everything else, including what is right." We talked for over 2 hours, laying out hurt feelings and broken trust. I explained that while I might eventually forgive him, our relationship would never be the same. There would be new rules, new boundaries. He would never have keys to my home again. Any financial discussions involving family would happen with full transparency. Surprisingly, he accepted these terms without argument. "I will earn your trust back, however long it takes," he promised. As for Lisa, reconciliation proved more challenging. She continued to blame me for her problems, refusing to acknowledge any wrongdoing. However, in a gesture that surprised us both, I worked with my father to help her find an affordable apartment in a decent school district for Michael. I made it clear this was for my nephew's benefit, not hers, and that the assistance came with strict conditions about financial responsibility. Through this painful experience, I learned several profound lessons. I learned about the importance of protecting yourself legally, even when dealing with family. I discovered that loving someone does not mean allowing them to take advantage of you. I realized that healthy relationships require mutual respect and clear boundaries. Most importantly, I learned that standing up for yourself is not selfish, but necessary. For too long, I had allowed my father and sister to define our family dynamic with me, always expected to give way to Lisa's needs. By finally saying no, by fighting for what was rightfully mine, I had not only protected my property, but had also established a new standard for how I would allow others to treat me. Today, my apartment remains my sanctuary, a symbol of both my hard work and my self-respect. My relationship with my father is slowly healing, though it will never be what it once was. Lisa and I maintain a distant but civil connection, mainly for Michael's sake. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who crossed boundaries? What would you have done in my situation? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Family dynamics can be incredibly complex, and sometimes the hardest battles are with those closest to us. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories of overcoming challenges and standing up for yourself. Share this video with someone who might need encouragement to establish healthy boundaries in their own relationships. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and others is to firmly say no when necessary.